Okay, the first ever Playground to Premiership podcast. Welcome, Jimmy Walker, good friend obviously in football. The way I looked at doing this, Wack, you've done lots of different podcasts compared to something like this, but you're involved in Football DNA, which we'll get to in a little bit. I have been running Ace Academy now for nearly 5 years, so I work predominantly with lots of kids in the playground, working up through football, and one of the probably fortunate things I've had, even though I work at grassroots at lower level, is I've got lots of contacts or friends in football who've actually done that journey all the way. So what I looked at and I was speaking about is I wanted to do a podcast a little bit different, speak to people like yourself who've started and gone all the way through. So anyone who doesn't know, I'm sure everyone does, but I played with you at Walsall. You had a fantastic career. You're the all-time appearance maker, I think there. And obviously you moved on to West Ham, and you played at Colchester, but you played at Tottenham as well for a while. And obviously you were known as a superb keeper. So hopefully, like you say, you have done it where you've played from playground to Premiership. So it's a great place to start. So welcome. Thanks for coming.
No, my pleasure, mate. Thanks for inviting me.
Got a nice view here at Calder Fields.
Fantastic.
Golf and country club in Walsall. Who would have thought it?
Who'd have thought it, mate? Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of yourself, Wack, take us all the way back to when you first started football. Sounds a bit cliche, but who got you into it? How did you start?
Well, fortunately, it's a long way back now, Tomo. So I'll have to.
It's longer than me, yeah.
It's a lot longer than you, to be fair. But no, I mean, just touching on your bits there. I mean, like I say, it's a great idea as well. What you're doing as well. I think it's people have got this idea of a perfect pathway through academies, through to the first teams, and playing for your country and getting through that way. It never really works like that. It may in some instances, and if it does, fantastic. But there's usually a lot of bumps and lots of peaks and troughs in the game. So if we can help anyone through this on this podcast, that'd be fantastic. But I mean, going back to me, I sort of started playing. I was the cliche of a kid. I always had a ball in my hands. I always had a ball at my feet. I can remember my nan, bless her, back in the day, she used to throw the ball at the wall and I'd dive on it and I'd save it. And little memories like that from as far back as I can remember. I think it was different sort of in my day. You never really played at 5, 6, 7 for a team. And I always remember, which for me was a really good thing because my family, we lived in Mansfield, but there was big Forest fans as well as going to watch Mansfield Town as well. But being big Forest fans, it was a fantastic era. That was an era when Peter Shilton was in goal, Clough was in charge. They won the European Cups and all around that time. So I had a great upbringing for 2 or 3 years with a season ticket to go and watch Forest with my granddad and my dad. And I still remember it now, like even, great fond memories, just dropping my nan off in the shopping centre and we carry on to the game and I go and watch Shilts flinging about around the goal. And I think that was my time that I really thought that's what I want to do, sort of thing. And something emulated in me there that sort of resounded in me that, yeah, that's sort of what I want to do. So it was a fantastic upbringing, just seeing Peter Shilton there doing that for Forest. And that was my main watch. And then I think after that, you start playing in a team.
What age did you start in the team?
It's really hard to remember. It must have been around 9 or 10.
So if you look at it now in terms of what I'm talking to you, like kids as soon as they're 6, you can be in year 1 in school, and as soon as you're 6, you're allowed to play in the league. So like you say, that pathway starts a lot earlier.
Yeah.
If you're saying you start at 9, you can obviously sign at 8 now for a pro academy,
right,
for your 9s.
Yeah.
But to keep on your journey, you don't think you started till about 9?
I think it was 9 or 10, to be honest.
Yeah.
There was not a
And
lot.
Did you always want to be a keeper?
I think just from watching Shilton, my main focus was goalkeeping. It was always goalkeeping, but I love playing outfield as well.
Yeah.
I think I was fortunate. A lot of times, back in the day, some people got shoved in goal because they weren't as good or they weren't quite as mobile as others. But I was first with a hand up to go in goal, to be honest. I think it's changed a lot now. When you look at it now, a lot of young lads especially want to be a goalie from a young age, and I was sort of on that sort of pathway. But I think when you're at a young age like that, sometimes you've got to be careful because it's all about playing in a team and playing. Yeah. I think it did me a massive favour not playing in a team and focusing on me just playing in a league and trying to do really well in a league for my team. I got to go and watch games. I used to go and watch Shields, like I said, and it was great. I used to play all the sports at the time, and I just had a lot of fun as a kid. I remember that, and it was never serious at any point really until you got that bit older for me. And we always had some good players from my school and lads who I knocked around with, and so we all sort of played together from probably 11 or 12 onwards, to be honest. And it was great. I mean, playing with your mates is a fantastic time. There's nothing better.
And I think that's the thing, sort of, obviously pathways are different, like you say. Hopefully, as I do these podcasts and I get to interview different people, no person's pathway will be the same. What was interesting, I actually thought you'd have come on here. I didn't know, genuinely. I thought you'd have told me you played outfield more, because not to buff you up to the viewers, but you're very good off your feet, I think, as a keeper. Now, obviously, that's sort of looking at for the keepers for a minute, because I think even as an academy, as Ace, sometimes the keepers don't get looked after as much as the players in grassroots. I thought you'd have said to me that you played outfield more, but you didn't. Just a question that someone put to us today is, when kids come in and they want to be a keeper at 6 or 7, and some do, would you encourage them just to specify being a keeper straight away? Or would you encourage them to play outfield as well? How do you think? Obviously, you're a goalkeeper coach. How do you think it would benefit to play both? Or, you know what, just singularly focus on being a keeper?
Do you know what? I think it benefits to do both, definitely. And we'll touch on that. Going on to mine, when I was younger, it was always goalkeeper. Then when I sort of got to 12, 13, and I could actually play outfield as well, I was quite good. I wanted to be a centre forward, but I always wanted to be a goalie. So there's a little.
Was you quick enough to be a keeper?
This was my dilemma, I'll be honest with you. When I got to 15, 16, it was starting right. If I'm going to do this as a career, I need to probably pick a pathway.
Yeah.
And I was probably, well, people had said I was too small to be a goalkeeper, which I, quite easily said. I was only small. I was a young age group. I was playing a year above that anyway. So I was 2 years above some of the lads I was playing against. So I did look really small. So probably that went against me a little bit to start with. But actually down my career, and we might touch on that later, that it actually helped me physically as well to deal with the demands of the physical side of the game. But just going on sort of what your question from that, I think I was going to say as well, my career path was goalkeeper too small or an outfield player, forwards, but I wasn't quick enough. Right. So that was my dilemma. I always felt I was a bit better in goal.
Okay.
So I did choose that path. If I was going to take it serious, I chose that pathway. But I think it helped me massively playing outfield as well, I think even if you just sort of play a different position, you'd learn how to receive a ball from the goalkeeper. So from a goalkeeper's perspective, the centre forward where he wants it dropped in. I knew when I played up front, I wanted it into feet, and I'd check that way to come and get it this way, sort of thing. So if I hadn't played outfield, I didn't quite get that sort of, the knowledge of all round.
And I think if you look at eras now, which I was going to put, because you said before we come on, and we can touch on that. But obviously, there's more demands on the keeper to play off their feet nowadays, is there? If that be right
Absolutely.
to say. So
Absolutely.
Obviously, in your day, they could clear the lines more.
Well, that's all you did.
Nowadays, keepers need to be brave enough, or they're put on the demands to play triangles. And
well, I think it's changed massively, and rightly so. I mean, back in the day, if you could lump the ball from one end of the pitch to the other, you was probably getting a game.
Yeah.
But now I think a goalkeeper is a focal point of starting the attack, and rightly so. You split the centre half, so whichever way you want to play. When it comes back to your goalkeeper, if your goalkeeper's comfy on the ball, you're going to keep the ball a lot more. You're going to retain possession, and you're probably going to play through the thirds, and it's a great way to play. I'm not saying that one over the top is still redundant for me, because I still like that one, and the more it's sucked onto you.
Yeah.
If you can go over the top as a goalie,
it
opens the space. It's fantastic to do. But I think on the academy side of things, I think for me as the goalkeeper coach, I've done some academy work. I'm more first team I've done, but I've done the academy side of things as well. And I think the goalkeeping side of things does get overlooked a little bit to go all for feet. So you'll see the goalkeepers just working on their feet with the team, which is a great thing. But for me, you've got to get the balance right, because to be a good goalkeeper, your fundamentals are your handling, your saves, you're dealing with through balls, crosses as well. And that's your fundamentals of goalkeeping for me. Great. Then if you've got, you're good with your feet as well, fantastic. You can work on that. Brilliant. And I think we've gone sort of absolute the full
Okay,
way round. Whereas back in the day, it was just goalkeeping. You'd make saves, you'd catch crosses, you'd make saves again, you'd dive at people's feet, you'd just kick the ball. But now it's more, right, the ball comes back to you. How are we going to play out from the back? What's your decision here? What's your starting points? Fantastic. It is brilliant to see. But also, for me, there's a bit come away from the goalkeeping.
Yeah.
There's even talk in academies, which drives me mental, really, is let's just put a midfielder in goal. Stick the midfielder. If a midfielder, what about if you've got a tall midfielder who's not quite good enough to be an outfield player for the academy? Try him in goal. I mean,
didn't that happen with Etheridge? So I think
possibly.
Etheridge, I think, got released. So Neil Etheridge, if anyone doesn't know, I think is he Blues keeper now?
He is.
Blues.
Yeah.
He was at Cardiff. He was at
Cardiff.
Walsall
Done really
when
well
I
at
was there as
Walsall.
commercial manager. But I think I'm quite right in saying that Etheridge was getting released as an under-14 striker at Fulham, and they said to him, "Would like to try you in goal."
And he went in that
And
way.
obviously, look, that may be an anomaly, not the rule, but obviously they tried it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I remember. Another look at this with keepers more. I remember like my lad Jude going to his first ever under-7 little academy training session at the Villa, and they were doing some elbow to summit test. They were trying to predict, if I'm right, his height or size at that point.
At that point, it's ridiculous.
And I was like, oh wow, like he's just a little lad trying to kick people at the minute. My Jude was. I mean, he had a bit, but I was actually quite shocked how specific they were trying to be on those type of things. So like you say, there's different attributes, but like I suppose what you're getting to is the fundamental. And like you can look at that with defenders as well, not just keepers. Is like we both grew up, we're around it at the minute, working or being coached, developed by somebody like Chris Nicholl, who was an amazing coach for his era, but he would have still gone with the fundamental of like Ropes wouldn't have got in some because his first thing was, can Ropes defend?
Yeah.
Can he head it? Can he tackle it? Can he do whatever? Now some people will be looking at Ropes saying, okay, can we play triangles off Ropes? No, that's not really
no, absolutely not.
But so like you're saying there, sometimes they can get past what is the key thing is
Absolutely.
can he save shots and can he clear his lines and do whatever?
For me as a goalkeeper coach, that's the first thing. You have to have some natural ability in goal to be a goalkeeper. Yes, you can manufacture them to a point, you can work on stuff, but you have to work on the fundamentals to be a solid goalkeeper. And if you can do that, you can then work with your feet as well. So I think we have got carried away a lot with the footwork, which is great, but sometimes we come away from the fundamentals of goalkeeping.
So sort of in the young ages is what you're saying is obviously with the keepers, they've still got to be able to do the fundamentals. But in your advice, if you had a kid now, like I have in Ace, and they're 6 or 7, I actually have a kid now who is in an academy, but they're saying if he doesn't want to be a keeper in the academy, he's not staying in.
Right.
And the kid sort of wants to play out.
Yeah, I feel as well.
And I'm like, he's 6 or 7. So he needs to do what he wants to do.
Absolutely.
So if he can get the balance of both, which is really good, because to be fair to the coach who's in the team, he's saying, well, look, the kid's enjoyment, and if he likes playing out, he's really, I'm not going to say instinctive, but I find at the young age is what the good keepers are the brave ones.
Yeah,
dive
absolutely.
forward, want to do.
You have to have that mentality.
But I'm saying
that's what
for this kid, he must also, there's no point him going and playing in an academy game where the academy wins sort of 9-8-0 and he's lent against the post and he's not developing.
Not
So I've sort of advised this parent that if he stays in the academy in goal, he should play outfield for us on a Sunday, and he should enjoy the best of both worlds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he might not be good enough as a keeper, or he might not enjoy. He needs to have a bit of both.
I think that's what you just said. That last word you just said there, enjoy. You know, for me as a kid, like you're talking about height and measuring things at 6 and 7 and that. Come on, like I get it, but it's ridiculous. It's about, yes, you've got kids looks a good player, but it's about him enjoying it or her enjoying it. Whoever, just enjoy the game, see what you can get. And as you gradually then get older, you can go from there and realise, okay, this is something I want to do as a career.
Yeah.
And then that sort of age now, I mean, mine was 14, 15, nearly 16 before I actually decided.
This is grassroots and academy and obviously the route, but I didn't know until we come on before here that you didn't play any academy football. And before you answer that and talk about that journey, we said that stat we seen for everyone who's watching as viewers that I think it's 180 kids of 1.5 million that try
That's a
and
lot.
reach for the so it's like you better chance probably landing on the moon
Yeah,
if you wanted to be an
yeah,
astronaut.
absolutely.
So keeping that balance of enjoying it is key. My lad who we mentioned just not to Jude's fortunate now, he's in Warsaw 14s Academy starting next year, but he was doing a session on the 3G on Monday and we're holding under 7 sessions on the opposite side. Now he obviously loves his football. He looked across and as we was walking off he went, "Oh, that's the best age, isn't it, Dad?" And he's still a kid,
yeah.
but he looked across and he went, "Oh, isn't that the best
At what
ages?"
age? What age?
So
is he now?
Jude's going 14s, but he was watching 7-year-olds play.
And it just
I
just
look,
for
some of
enjoyment.
them, Rob Edwards, who's the England, he's just at the Forest Green job.
Yeah.
His daughter Lexi, who's Villa 16s, going into 18s, trains with England. His son, which is really good and relevant for me, his son is just starting with us, and he's raw. But Rob knows that the only key denominator at the minute is attitude and enjoyment for him.
Absolutely.
We have Stephen Cook, who was England captain at 16, got in Villa young, Michael Kitely, and they're really balanced with it. They watch their boys. They obviously want them to do well, but it's really good that you sort of come on and sort of push that enjoyment at the young ages is so key.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm just touching on what you spoke about your boy. My boy now is 21 now, and he went to West Ham with me when I played there, and they put sessions on at night, and there were some fantastic players there, like really skillful. My boy was never quite that skillful at 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But he loved the game, loved playing. And I can remember I went to watch training, and I said, "Do you mind if he comes?" So they took him in. Yeah, brilliant, bring him in. And he was actually like, I mean, he's in the middle of a game, and he had no football intelligence really, but he loved playing, loved running with a ball, and he had some ability. But he's in the middle of the games going on, and he's doing cartwheels in the middle of the pitch and all that. So I'm off on the sideline watching and going, "Thomas,
Yeah.
focus. And to be fair to the West Ham coaches, because I'd never worked with kids then, they was like, they said to me, they said, "Jim, relax, he's fine. If he's doing a cartwheel on the pitch, it means he's really enjoying the game.
Right.
Let him enjoy it. I don't care. The Cruyff turns or the Maradonas or whatever, taking someone on will come and the game knowledge will come. If he enjoys it, that's the main thing at the minute." And he loved it there. For a couple of years at West Ham, he loved it. And it was all football. And then it was funny because we went to, they moved back to Nottingham then after that. And it was probably about 9-ish. And he went to Forest Academy. And no disrespect to Forest Academy, it was very different. They was very regimented on how they wanted them to play and behave and that. And Thomas at the time still didn't have that mentality.
Yeah.
He just wanted to go and enjoy it, which was right. And he'd had 2 or 3 years at West Ham where he did that and loved it. He actually went to Forest 3 or 4 times. And I can remember I picked him up on Wednesday to take him to, and it was really quiet after school. And I said, "What's the matter?" And he said, and he wouldn't really say. I said, "Do you not want to go to football?" He said, "No, I don't really want to go." So from that, we went to the cinema. I went to the cinema from that, and I said, "If you're not enjoying it, don't do it.
I think
go and play with your kids.
That's brilliant.
Go play with your friends."
One of the statements, I remember putting it out when we first started ACE, but I think it was 2. Sean Dyche said, "Look, if they don't enjoy it, it won't make sense." And it was simple, but I was like, that's perfect.
Absolutely.
If they don't enjoy it, it won't make sense to them young. The other one was about, like, if you're teaching your kid to ride a bike, you wouldn't run down the side shouting at him. It just confused him, and that was relevant as well to football.
Absolutely.
But you are right in terms of that enjoyment part early. They have to have that. But you know what was...
It's sad if it comes out of you later as well.
Yeah.
You should always enjoy the game. If I had lost my enjoyment for the game at any point, I knew I was never going to play as well as I could.
Well, there's a lad now, I think I've spoke to you about him, but there was a lad when my elder lad first went into Villa, and I watched, and I'm involved with academy football now. I always say that if we leave grassroots for a minute, where I think grassroots can build you like friendships, sort of bonding with people, give you confidence. Obviously, it helps kids in sort of keeping fit and everything else and health. But academies can have a lot of good traits for kids in sort of how they conduct themselves, how they do things. But for some people, not for everyone, when you're in an academy now, it can be 3-4 times a week, and it can be an overload for some kids.
I could see that.
And there was a kid there, I'd only been there 2-3 weeks, and call him Vardy now, but he's quite raw with it. And I said, look, I could see straight away, I was like, is the system right for him? he may come out and come back in.
Yeah.
And he ended up coming out of academy football, and he's actually gone as a first year scholar and signed a year pro with Blackpool now.
Right.
He went and come out, played first team football at 16, scored goals against men who were kicking and like sort of proper football, and he's gone back in.
And now he's probably ready.
That probably helps, that like the journey is different. But the one bit I was going to pick, I don't want to forget this, is I could get pulled up now, because when I started coaching, which is 7 years ago in grassroots, and I had a family who were quite knowledgeable. Their lad had been in Albion for 5 years, and really good family with their sport. And I had the kid actually who didn't come to football on the Saturday because he was doing tennis. And I know we'll get to what you did, but I was digging the family out, going, it's football, that's all it is. And she was like, no, dual sport's good. And I was like, no, you should focus on your football. And it took me a while, but I realise now after so many years that I think if kids can maybe have dual sport up to a certain age, it'll give them different social inclusions. So if they're not good enough for one, they might flip into the other. And actually it can have different benefits. So obviously Pete's behind the camera. He's not sent you the clip yet, but you're known, I can see. You've got really good reactions. And I was obviously going to speak, but you've actually spoke about, you played a lot of tennis as a kid and you were reasonably high level. So just elaborate on how maybe you think that might help.
Well, I think if I look at how I was in goal, my eye to ball was really good. Like as soon as the ball left someone's foot, I'd be moving towards it. Now I see other goalies who are a bit bigger or whatever, they don't quite pick it up for the first couple of yards and then react.
Yeah.
Fine, that's their way of doing it. But mine, as soon as the ball left someone's foot or who came in for a cross or whatever was in the ball, I could react straight away. You know, if it's close in, I'd get a block or something like that. And like you say, I played tennis, squash. I used to go with my dad's. I used to love my tennis. And I mean, football was always my one, but I love tennis as well. And I got to quite a good standard. I think I was like Nottinghamshire under 15s. I got to the final of the All Comers. But my only problem was with tennis was like it was like a weapon in my hand. So if I lost a point or I weren't happy with the umpire's decision, it was gone. So it weren't quite for me in the end. But just doing that different sports, I think it helped me footwork. I definitely think it helped me eye to ball.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a definite place for. And I loved it. I enjoyed it. It was a different environment for me as well. I'd have my football mates, so I knew how I'd play. I wasn't in the academy, so it wasn't regimented for me. But I could see how if I was, that I'd come out and maybe just go and enjoy playing tennis.
So I don't forget this sort of question, doing dual sport, but obviously we're Q4 babies, so a lot of people, that's relevant. So relevant to academia.
Say what?
We're Q4 babies,
so
as in.
I'm younger.
Yeah, sorry. So I was going to explain it.
Right.
No. So I'm younger than you in the term. I'm August 28th.
Right.
So what I'm saying is.
So you'd be the same. That's the last of the
year, I'm like
isn't it?
2 days away from being the year under.
Right.
So what I was saying there is, you didn't get in academies, but obviously, like you say, you played up, and obviously you're quite small. But what I was going to get to is you're a July baby, and you're obviously digging in. Do you think, in terms of your character, when you made it towards the top end, even though that was difficult as a kid, did that help you?
I think it definitely did. I think it made me more resilient as well, especially. It helped me deal with the physical aspects of things, but it made me more resilient, definitely. Because I was always told too small to do this, too small to do that. And I could see it. I was literally 2 years younger than some of the lads. And at like 13 and they're 15, I'm playing lads who've got beards. And like they're smashing the ball in from the halfway line and I can't even touch the ball. And it was like, I learned how to deal with probably adversity and letting goals in and getting a bit of stick from my teammates and parents on the sideline going, he's not big enough. And I think it really did help. Probably not at the time because although I was a really good goalie, I probably got overlooked because if I played with even a year younger, I'd probably look really good.
Yeah.
But because I'm 3 years older than that.
They can do that in academies. You can't do it in grassroots.
But you can
buy
down
a band, can't you? So you can have.
I think that's a really good idea, personally. But it is and it isn't, because that side of things really then give me a real resilience and a real will to dig in and right, I'll show you, I can do this. And I had that on throughout my career. I played in Div 2. Did really well. Too small to go to Div 1. Did really well in Div 1. He's done well, but too small to go to the champ. Played the champ and like I said, finished up in the Prem. And all along throughout it, even 500 games in, I was always too small.
That
So
question mark wouldn't go away.
would never go away. And, you know, I tried to answer it as much as I can. And I didn't want to prove to anyone else. I wanted to prove to myself more than anything by the time I was getting older. But I do think that came from the early age of that adversity of playing 2 or 3 years.
Well, you said, obviously, so we get to that. So you played grassroots. You actually, which was interesting, you said you got in, was it 2 months before what was called Scholar now, but it's YTS. So
YTS then.
where this journey of playground to Premiership will be different for everyone, it's different now in this day. So I would argue, I reckon, Wack, that in this modern time, you might have gone into an academy younger because more kids go in, maybe not, but there's still a route for that. So you've gone in with 2 months before your YTS, and talk about sort of those couple of years. But again, that got levelled at you, did it, when you left Notts? That's why you didn't get taken in height.
Oh, absolutely. And that was my youth team manager. I mean, it was a tough one, a real tough one to take, to be honest. But I mean, like I said, I never got taken on. My mates who were getting cherry picked by, I mean, it was obviously Mansfield, so there's a lot of clubs locally, Forest. No one really got took at Notts County, to be honest, but there was Sheffield United who was getting handpicked from. And they're all going off to these academies and all playing in them, and then playing with us on a Saturday and then going off on a Sunday to play that. And I was thinking, probably my time's not going to come. And it was...
But before I forget, no keeper should give up hope, because you got picked on a 5-0 defeat, didn't you?
Absolutely. I was distraught. 5 goals as well. Devastated.
Lost 5-0.
Actually, really good game.
Too.
It was madness. But I mean, it was literally towards the end of the season before they was taking everyone on the following year for the YTS at 16s to 18s. And now we ended up playing a Notts County side. I think it might have been in a cup game or something. And like you say, we got beat 5. I had a really good game, even though I let 5 in, honestly. But after the game,
keeper's fault.
Never the goalie's fault. I blamed everyone. And that's the sign of a good goalie. Blame everything else. But I mean, let 5 in, it was... I thought that was it. That was probably one of my last chances to get in, and just so happened. My dad was the manager at the time of Sheepridge, was our team.
What's the team?
Sheepridge Colts was brilliant. It was just all my mates. It was sensational. But we had some really good players. Lost a few to different things. A few went to like academies.
Yeah.
A few found girls and different stuff. And they ran the race. But I was always quite focused on doing it, and I actually didn't think it was going to happen. So when I let the 5 in, I thought that was probably my last chance. And it ended up the coach was the goalie coach. Well, the coach of their team, Notts County at the time, was a guy called Alan Hill, who was a goalkeeper himself. And he asked my dad who the goalie was, and he said, "Well, it's my son." And I really liked me, invited me in to train. And I ended up coming in to train with him, and I was training with the first team on my second day in. And I was diving around there, and I always remember it. Alan Hill was even saying to the goalies, "Oh, look, do what he does. Look, he's watched that all the way around the post and tipped it." I'm like, that's all right, isn't it? And I really enjoyed the environment. I don't know if I'd have done it for 5 or 6 years leading up to that, I don't know if I'd have still had that same buzz. I don't know. So you don't know which way you're going to go. Yeah. But for me, that pathway was the right pathway. I really enjoyed it, got to there. And as soon as I went into the club, I knew it was for me. Okay. I knew it was for me, and I trained really well, and I really enjoyed being around it. And I never signed because it was that close to being taken on for the next year. So it was just a case of, we'll give you this next year.
So that's an interesting one, because people all know football now, but you're a strong character. You're a good character. But like I said to you, not just chuck stats, but they say that when you get into pro football at 16, there's still only roughly about 5% who are still in the game at 21. So we look at that pathway. A lot of kids will get a scholar or get a YTS, but scholar's tough, isn't it? Or YTS is tough. A lot of kids sink or swim.
Absolutely.
You might move away from home. You're in a proper environment. Yeah. You know as well as I do. I might look a bit slimmer now to when I played them, but I walked in at 15 in the away dressing room, and Skip, O'Connor, Watkins and Marshy have popped their head round and gone, "Oh lads, pressure's off, there's a beginner now." Literally like, killed me. Absolutely.
That's a great upbringing.
That's a great upbringing. They're getting the lads to come in. "Don't worry lads, we're weighing at pre-season." And I remember at 50, because of that, I was 15. Jeez. I'll never forget that day, walking in, having to jump on the scales, and Hibbett saying, "I've heard you can play, son." And I said, "Yeah." And he went, "You better be able to, because you're a fat little..." I was like, but
he said similar to me when I signed.
I remember going home and my mum saying, "How was your day?" "Yeah, great, yeah, great."
But do you think...
But it made... like.
Do you think that helped help.
Well, do you know what? As a contrast for that, first day was 5-0s, and even though they did all that to me, they got to pick, and first pick, I always say to him now, Skip, pick me first pick.
Brilliant.
So he sort of went, okay, give you
Let's
a bit of
go.
stick, but you're with me. And I had,
And that's what it was like.
and that was great because I was on the gaffers who could play, by the way, Hibbett.
Hibbett could
I was
play.
with Hibbett, Killer, Skip, and all of a sudden, I'm winning the 5-0, and Eric McManus is going, "You're not laughing now, are you? Look at him play."
Yeah,
So
brilliant.
it was good. You like that environment was like, okay, son, you need to be a bit fitter if you're going to play, but we'll help you. It's a bit different.
It's very different now. I mean, change rooms back in the day were lawless, really. Weren't they?
Yeah.
You had to really, not man up's probably the wrong word, because there's women's football, etc. But you had to become a man quickly in a football environment, professional environment. You had to become a man quickly, and if you didn't, you'd get found out. So it was. I like that environment, but like you say, a lot of people didn't. You know, if you weren't a strong character or you didn't force yourself into being a strong character, you could go under. And I've seen some really good players, first year YTS. By the time it went to later on, a couple of years later, they was sort of falling out of the game.
Well, where you talk about journey, like you said, I'd got released from Wolves for being too heavy, which is quite right. And I sort of come in last pick, but the kid who was the draft pick as centre mid at my age had left within his first year as scholar for not enjoying it.
Right.
So this kid was like the draft pick as a kid.
Yeah.
Great centre mid. But when he got into that environment, I mean, you talk about your journey with Notts. I mean, am I right in saying Warnock was he your first team manager around then?
He just came in. He was really good. I've got so many. I mean, there's so many stories you could say on it. I mean, like even going back to Kenny Hibbett, like when I first signed there, it was under the provision that I lost a stone. and then about a day later, we was on pre-season. He caught me eating a bowl of chips under the table, and he went mental, like mental. The table went and everything. What have I told you? I went on me. So, you know, back in the day, you was told Warnock would tell you. It was slightly different because Warnock was younger. In fact, it was his fault that probably Kenny Hibbett got on me because then Mick Jones was his assistant, and Warnock, and they loved me as a kid. At 17, I was playing really well, but I was really skinny, believe it or not. Yeah, right. But 16, 17, I was like that,
Okay.
and I was not the tallest. So they said, look, you know, Shilton's not the tallest, 6'1", so maybe you'll get to that. But he's like this. He's a man mountain.
Yeah.
So we need you to fill out. So, I mean, brilliant. I was in the digs at the time. There's 30 lads in the digs. And the lads have the bog standard pasta and tomato sauce of the night. I was in there with a pint of stout and a steak and vegetables and steak. Like, just do it. Lads, the pasta all right, yeah? They're like, lads like, what is going on here? But honestly, it's not a great story to tell for inspiring people.
Yeah.
But 6 months later, they put me on an ice water diet. I took it too far. I was like that. You went, well, Jesus, we want you to fill out, but you took it to extremes, son. Put me back on the ice water diet. That was so, they was great. And it was a brilliant upbringing. My youth team manager was Mick Walker, and he was ruthless, ruthless. And it was very sink or swim. And to be honest, on the back of it, we had, and I put myself in this category, we had good ability, but we weren't world beaters by any stretch of the imagination. We was good players. None of us in that team had like anything like, there was a couple who you could tell was really good, and we won everything under that. It built such a resilience again from all of us, and we was like, it was almost like, you know, mate, it sort of manned us up straight away in that, and we won loads of things from that, and everyone from my year, I think 10 of us there was 11. One went to America. Darren Powell, who's out there now doing really well coaching, so he's still in the game. And the other 10 got taken on as, they could not take us all on. So they
normally get a couple.
They took us all on and invented a third team just because.
Is there any others who actually went on and had?
There's quite a few, to be honest. I mean, there was Michael Johnson who played for Birmingham.
Oh, okay.
You know, but every one of those, like I said, they'll admit this help.
Got the most at their ability.
They all went on and had a career. Every one of them, probably 80% of them, went on and played over 200 games. minimum. Most went on to play 300 or 400, whether it was Division 2, couple of non-leagues, Division 1. Michael Johnson's played higher and a couple of others, and myself was probably went the furthest on it. But I think from that upbringing, that really helped us. So there's no way you could talk to people and kids nowadays, and rightly so.
Yeah.
Like we did back in the day, but just back in the day, it was a done thing, and it actually got the best out of us. So it's nice to have some old school values.
Yeah.
And I think now you've got the modern way of things as well, and it's more, helping people along. And I think it's a great way of doing it. It's a better way of doing it. But if we can do that, just retain some old school values.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way. And there has to be some discipline somewhere. And I like the way a lot of academies go about things. I know I've given academies probably not the greatest respect, but academy kids will go in and when I was at Ipswich, they have to come in and shake your hands. And they have to come and shake hands. Obviously, this is before the COVID business and all that, but before they'd come in and shake hands. How you doing? So, yeah. And it was really respectful, and I really liked it. I thought, fair play to you. I like that. That's an old school value that's kept in. And then if you can get the best of the coaching and the best of helping them on the back of that, I think that's a great way to do it.
I think West Brom have got to think at the minute that if they build better players but better people is their sort of ethos.
Great, perfect way of doing it.
Because what they're sort of saying is we can't guarantee the player, but if we can make a better person.
Well, look at the stats. Look at the stats you've said about people like kids getting through, 1 in a million, more or less, really, isn't it? Or 100 in a million, or something along them lines. From 16 to 18, this 5% go on to play. So that's massive. So absolutely make them right. If you can make them a better person, first and foremost, I think that's a great way of doing it. And then you can help them as much as you can to try and have that career. And if you can get a few of them through, that's fantastic.
So where we are now, you are one of the lucky ones that have got the 5% still at 21. So we at Walsall 2021. So did you ever, I don't know if you, by the sounds of it, had an out-and-out goalkeeper coach as a kid until you made academy?
Well, what it was back in the day, at Notts County then, they rated me quite highly as a kid. And we had Steve Cherry came in, who was, at Walsall as well.
Thing with Steve,
Ches was brilliant for me. And if you look at him in goal and you look at me, I sort of moved very similar to him, because it's amazing like how much influence a coach or another player can have on a younger player. Do you know what I mean? So important when you're a coach that everything you do is bang right. Because that is the influence you get, But Ches used to take me with him every morning just because I could smash a ball. And he had a lad come in a couple of days a week to take him, but I'd come with him and I'd be volleying at Ches. Then I'd go in goal and I'd be making saves, and Ches would be smashing them at me, and he'd be like, "Come on, Gissy, make that save." And it was brilliant. It was a fantastic time, and it didn't pan out for me at Notts in the end. And I ended up getting the youth team manager who was so successful with, ended up getting the manager's job, and it was a weird one. I'd not been great for 6 months, to be honest. I'd sort of come off the focus. I thought it was too easy, and I'd stopped training as hard as I could, and we was going out a lot, and that. It was that's the first time I really lost my focus, and it showed on the pitch. If I look, being honest, he was actually right to give me a free, but he didn't make me feel any better at the time. He pulled me in, and I actually wrote out, because I think youth team manager, I've actually got him the job here because I've been brilliant for him in the youth team. So he's got the job on the back of this. So I'm actually writing out what I wanted as my next contract. It was like £300 a week, £50 a period. So I put that in there. I thought, I won't forget that. And he's come in, he's gone, and he started chatting. It weren't quite going right. And I'm thinking, where's he going with this? And he kept telling me I'd stop coming for crosses and stop focusing on things. And he said, I'm releasing you. And I was like, and it was like a bombshell. I never expected it. The paper got folded up like that went down. And I ended up like venting a bit of frustrations out on him and saying he was two-faced. And me and him had a big argument. And Russell Slater, who was then assistant, he came and we had a big argument. I ended up actually going to the chairman. At the time, I had to go and collect my P45. And I was angry. Probably angry at myself when I look back, because I'd let myself down, really. And I had a real chance of kicking on, but I'd let myself down. And he was right to do it looking back. But at the time, it wasn't. And the chairman was in there, Derek Pavis. And I picked him up at P45 and I couldn't resist it. And I went, Mr. Chairman, can I have a word? He went, of course you can, James. What's the problem? I said, you're a businessman, right? And he's going, yeah, that's right. Very successful. I said, how does it feel to just lost £1 million? And walked out with P45. And he's like, what is he on about? Shut the door on your way out. And that was it. And I've gone. And I actually then left there, and I remember going home and I sat with my nan, bless her. She was so knowledgeable about football anyway. And probably not, I needed probably a bit of tough love to say, no, it's your fault, not anyone else's. But she was too nice for it. Going, well, they don't know what they've lost, son. They don't know what they've lost. And I felt a bit sorry for myself for a while, to be honest. And I remember I went away with the lads to Tenerife end of the season, like you did most years, and I ended up staying for a few weeks longer. I ended up coming back, and it was only my dad who sat me down. And I'd had a few calls off Walsall. I think it was only Walsall and Torquay that had picked up the phone. And while I'd been away, my dad had took the call and said, yeah, I'll get him to Belgium before he had the mobiles, etc. So when I've got back home, my dad sat me down and went, right, you've had these calls. What do you want to do? I went, And I was on me. He said, no, sit down. We need to talk this. What do you want to do? You're 19. Do you want to make a career of it? Because you can't mess about. You've just seen what happens when you mess about at that age. Do you want to focus? Do you want to take one of these up? You need to really think about it. And I really thought hard about it, to be honest. And it was a time where I was touch and go where I wanted to. I didn't like the rejection. I hated people saying I was too small all the time. And I was fighting against everything all the time, it felt like. And it was one of those, I sat down and went, and my dad even says, don't let people win. Come on, you're better than that.
Yeah.
Like, go and show people. Go and prove to yourself you can do it and have a go. And what's the worst you can do? If it doesn't work in 2 years, but you give it a right go, then you give it a right go. You can come out with your chest held out. You know what I mean? Sort of thing. So, and that was it. And I went in, I actually rang Walsall back because it was the nearest one of Walsall and Torquay. It was miles away. I spoke to Paul Taylor.
I think Torquay with the social might not have been good.
Might not have been so good down there.
I know Walsall's all right, but it might have been better for you.
Well, it was good. Paul Taylor was brilliant, to be honest. And the only problem was, I'd got even fatter. I'd filled out on the stout and I'd not had a go. And I'd been away all summer. So I was a big lad. And Marshy said the same thing as he said to you, to be honest, when I walked in. But I spoke to Paul Taylor and I'm thinking like, wow, it's early still. We might have another week, 10 days. I'll be able to get a bit of running in, lose a bit of tucker, and I'll be all right to go and train. And speaking to him, I said, yeah, I'll come in, definitely. I want to have a go. Like, he said, right, come in on trial, see how it goes. And it's funny because like, I speaking. I said, when we're in, then he went, tomorrow. I'm like, oh, that's, yeah. He went, is that a problem? I was like, no, that's fine. That's fine. So I'm bowling, breathing in for the whole day. Like, and Marshy said the same thing. Yeah, I walked to the change room and he went, gee, I can't tell you the words he said on the bottom, but it was like, you took the pressure right off me. So that was it. So I knew I had a lot of work to do. And obviously then Kenny, to be honest, there was a couple of other trialists there at the time as well. And they was 6'2", 6'3", really good goalies as well. Proper looked after themselves all summer. You could see that. And there's me like that. But Mick Kearns, to be fair, who I've got a great rapport with over the years now, and I owe him so much. Even back then, he saw something in me. He said, and he's told me since, like, he said, he's the one that, forget how everyone looks, he keeps the ball out of the net. Because his biggest thing was, can he keep the ball out of the net? He said he keeps the ball out of the net like I've never seen anyone do it.
He's not easily impressed, is he?
He's not easily impressed. He never told me that at the time. Like, he was calling me fat boy and everything. Like, you need to work harder, look at the size and all that. So, and he saw something in me. And I remember at the time, all we did was run for like, I do goalkeeping with Kearns, then we go in the running. And I couldn't do it. And my thighs were rubbing together and everything. And Kenny Hibbitt weren't actually going to take me. He was just going to let me go.
Do you know, I think one of the nicest bits about this story, which is still really relevant for kids and everything, is sort of digging in. So what you've done there, like, it sounds pretty clear. You could have had a pathway there that you just would have fell off.
Absolutely.
Fell off, not made it. Because what we're here speaking about is 600 games later from that point.
Yeah, 25
you got all
odd
the
years.
way, 25 odd years in the game. But it sounds quite clear that you come back from Tenerife, spoke with your dad, got into war, so you could have easily just fell away.
And I needed that bit of luck as well. And I needed actually someone to believe in me, like Mick Kearns did, to be fair to him. And obviously Kenny saw bits in me and Paul Taylor. But I remember running around and I was a terrible runner. And I actually came back to him. I sacked the running. He was doing a 3-mile run and it was about half a mile in. I went, oh, I can't do it. My thighs were rubbing together, like I said. But come down and Kenny went, you all right? I said, yeah, his groin's a bit stiff. And he's like, all right. I knew he weren't happy. And I said, look, I'm not a great runner. Put me in goal, you'll see what I can do, sort of thing. He's like, not a great runner. He went in on me. We went to town on me. You've been a disgrace and all that. I said, well, put me in goal. I'll show you what I can do. Like, so I fought back a little bit. And then with Kearnsy saying that as well in the background, which I didn't know, he's gone, right, I weren't going to take you to, we went to Ireland the week after on pre-season tour. He said, I weren't going to take you, but have you said that and you've got a bit about you, I'm going to take you with us. And then I played in a game out there. I'd not played a game for 6 months. So it could have gone anyway. But I remember I come for the first cross or made the first save and I felt like I belonged again. And I went, that was it. And I never looked back.
You know what? It's a great point because I've said to kids sometimes, obviously, or parents, you must be in an environment where people believe in you. And like you've look,
it's massive.
Jan was great for others. It didn't work for me. But when you're in an environment that you know someone doesn't believe in you, it saps you.
I don't care what age you are or what ability or what level you're at, whether you're a Gareth Bale, whether you're a non-league player. I remember actually I'm going off a little bit tangent, but I actually remember being at West Ham for 5 years and then Paul Lambert at the time was Colchester manager and he was desperate for me to go on loan. And I weren't playing at West Ham at the time and I went on loan and Zola had come in and I weren't playing at the time. No. I mean, Rob Green was playing. It was fantastic. I was just quite not under it. And he didn't really fancy me at the time. I'd not played to change my mind. I said I might as well go out on loan. And actually, so I'm 35, 36 at this time. And I went to Colchester and I just remember feeling, Lambert just went to me like before a game, like, or after the game going, that was unbelievable. You look like, he must have known which buttons to press. He was like Peter Shilton and Andy Gore rolled into one. Both my heroes. I'm like, I grew about 2 foot. Like,
because he was short.
Because he must have known. He must have known who they was my heroes.
He knew that they'd been your heroes because they're high.
And just to hear that, and I'm 35, and I've played 500 games by that stage. But even just to hear that someone believed in me, I had a 3-month on loan there where I probably played some of my best football, and that's just because he believed in me.
I suppose the good thing you've got there, and any coaches that are listening, is like knowing what buttons to press for players will get the best out of them. So in different working environments, probably sounds the wrong term, but my old gaffer, and this was not a football environment, but great guy, he used to say to me, you got to know which stuff to kick and which to cuddle.
Yeah.
But I knew what he meant.
Yeah.
So he's like, he can give Wacker a kick and he'll go, but other people might need their arm around him. And I think, like you say, even there, you always come across as a player who had supreme self-confidence to me, but you're saying there, even at 35, going in Lambert, like, buffing me up was what I sort of...
Absolutely. I think any player would want that. And you can flip it a little bit. As a coach, you need, so as a player, if you've got someone who believes in you, it's massive for you. But if you are a player and a coach doesn't quite believe in you, or you don't think they like you, well, instead of just going, you don't like me, it's gone like, which probably I did at Notts County at the end, sort of thing. There's actually a way you can actually dig in and go, do you know what? I'm going to prove to you.
Did you see the Van Persie interview this last 6 months?
I think I did.
Look, for any people who are obviously watching, just go and find it on YouTube. His lad's under 13s at Feyenoord.
Yeah,
and he comes out, and obviously everyone else is full, and Van Persie cuts him dead and says, like, well, what can you do?
Yeah,
what sort of putting the onus back on the player.
Absolutely.
Because quite right, where I've just said about that time with Jan, like there's so much more now that I would have said, well, actually, Wayne, no, it's not Jan, it's me.
Yeah.
What could I have done to turn it around? Look, in terms of you got to the Holy Grail, so look, there'll be loads of Walsall people. Your career, I said, you come to Walsall and it was built there, but you kept moving. We had some of the best times, Walsall fans will say, with you playing, and you were exceptional keeper in League One and then Championship, and Mick Kearns was a big part of that. When you've moved to West Ham, which is obviously a great move for you, you've got to play with so many good players, and then you've ultimately got to the Holy Grail of playing in the Premiership. So what are the differences for people listening in as the levels go up?
I think as you go, you always want to challenge yourself. I always wanted to challenge myself. I think that sort of, if you stand still, I hated standing still or going backwards, hated it. So I always wanted the club, and I was quite vociferous in it, saying to the club, you need to sign someone, we need to keep going on, we need to keep going. And it worked brilliant at Walsall. We got to the champ, and at every level I went up, I felt comfier. And whether that's because I was getting older and more used to playing and I was getting more experience or getting sharper, I don't know, but every year we went up, I felt better and better, and I felt really comfy in the champ. And I love Walsall. Walsall was, my club. It was a time. It was a fantastic 10 years. Was incredible. When we get to that champ, I wanted us to go again. And I kept saying, "You need to go again. We need to go again." We were doing well in the champ, and they never really wanted to make that extra step. And for me I wanted to push on. I wanted to see if I could play in the Prem. I wanted to get to that level and see if I could do it. So obviously, when the West Ham thing came up, I had to do it. I had to try.
Were they champ when you went
They
there?
was champ at the time, and in my thinking, it's perfect, because if I went straight into the Prem, I'd probably gone in as like a number 2, number 3, good in the change room, can play a few games maybe. We don't know. But if I actually go into West Ham, I know I can play the champ. I just played it for 5 years. I've been really good. So I'm going in there to be number 1 in the champ. And if it goes well and we get promoted, there's my holy grail. There's me cemented, hopefully, as pushing the number 1 spot in the Prem. So that was my train of thought there at the time. I'm 29 years of age, 30 years of age, so it's quite late again. But that was my train of thought at West Ham. And again, it didn't go smoothly and everything went, we got promoted. I didn't play half as much as I liked that season. He went with Stevie Bywater, and Stevie Bywater was a fantastic goalkeeper. At that time, I was peak. I was ready to play. And Pards, for whatever reasons, he wouldn't play me. And I played in the cup games. I played against Chelsea, and I had a Stormer, which I've lived off in Essex for the last 20 years, which is nice.
Is that the penalty?
That was the penalty. I don't like to talk about that. Unless you want to, then obviously I'll talk about it. But it was, so it wasn't plain sailing to get there. And it was only I played a little bit halfway through the season, I injured my groin, so I had to come out again. And then towards the end of the season, we were struggling. We was mid-table. We were struggling to make the playoffs at this point. And I remember I told the story before, but we was at Wigan away. And we was on the bus going to the game, and you never see the directors and the chairman on the bus ever. They were sat with Pards, and it was well documented that if we lost that game, he was gone. And the club was in real financial trouble as well at the time. So if they didn't get promoted, it would have been disastrous for them. So we knew the pressure was on all round, on everyone. And we always joked that might as well have the Grim Reaper sat behind Pards as well. That if he lost, that was him done. His football days at West Ham was done.
Are you going to say you saved his job?
100% I did. But he pulled me in the shower room. Now, bear in mind, I'd not played for a couple of months. You know what I'm like? I quite like a good night out as well.
Yeah.
So when I'm not playing, I wasn't as focused as I would have been, because I didn't think he was going to play me again. He's pulled me in the shower at Wigan, at DW, and he's gone, "I need you today, goalie." I'm like, "What do you mean you need me?" He went, "I need you, you're in." I was like, "Oh, now you need me." "What about the last 2 months?" He went, "You ready?" I went, "I was born ready, gaffer." And that was it.
You would have said that as well.
Oh, absolutely. I said that was my exact words. I think I turned the shower on him as well and wet him through. Should have done it 2 months ago. But it was one of those, and we played a game, but I was miles off it in the game. But again, a bit of luck, and you make your own luck at times, because I really wanted it. And I'm coming for crosses. I've missed them, but it's hit my elbow and still gone out. I've tried to make a save with this arm, and it's moved, and it's hit this shoulder and stayed out, and got a lot of luck on the day, and we ended up winning the game 2-1. And the chairman and directors went on their own way, and we went on the bus back, and it was a great time. We had a great run after that, and that's when we got to the playoff final. And we joked about it many times. We spoke about it, and so to get West Ham to the Prem was my dream, because I wanted to play in the Prem. Always was my dream. And I'm being honest, I never said it too much. I've never said it to any of the lads, because I would have got slaughtered, but unrightly so, you just wouldn't say it. But I wanted to play for England. I wanted to see if I could trouble the England team. And I knew if I got to the Prem, Rob Green was playing from Norwich, at that time. He was a fantastic goalkeeper as well. He plays a lot of England. I knew, and he was playing in the champ. So I knew if I got that step up, there's a real possibility I could. And that's what I was focused on at the time, and had a real good running. And, unfortunately in the final, as I think most would know, with a minute to go, it was my dream. And there was no way to any ball that was coming in the box. I had Anton Ferdinand, 19 years of age, Elliot Ward, 18 years of age in front of me. Fantastic players. But there's no way I'm letting them deal with anything that's coming in the box. I'm coming out for it. This is my time. We're 1-0 up at the time against Preston. There's no way they're scoring. And that was it. And with a minute to go, Andy just kept loading the box. A minute to go, I just said to them, "Look, keep them up. I'm coming for everything in the box." And he's lumped it in, and it's probably the highest I've ever been. And I've took it really high. I've landed. As I'm landing, it's a sort of mechanism you'd do most days in training really, and I've spanned and I'm close to the edge, to be honest. So I've gone to plant my foot right on the edge, and the plan was then to just sit on the ball and take a couple of minutes, and that's it. We're in the Prem. Fortunately, when we landed, that's when sort of, I mean, it's a bit dramatic, but my world sort of shattered as well as my knee, and that was it. And I ruptured a lot, and I'm lay there watching the game. I'm watching the free kick come in with 8 minutes injury time in a small room in the back of the Millennium.
Explain that another
It
thing.
was it was the most like saddest, surreal moment. I'm like, this can't be right. What's happened?
Yeah.
I'm watching it on a small screen. A minute ago, I was in front of millions of people in front of 80,000 West Ham fans about to win the playoffs and that. And so that was that. And I remember Johnny Green came in, the physio at the time, and he celebrated with us, said, "Well done, you massive part, blah, blah, blah." I said, "John, strap me up and get me out there." I said, I'm going out there. He went, no, rest. Put your ice on. So I went, no chance. We just got promoted to the Prem. I know it's bad, but I'll worry about that later. Get me out. And that, you see all the pictures with my bandages as big as my whole body. And
I heard you dance better than anyone that night, which is probably
well, Johnny
a
Green
good thing
again.
for you now.
Johnny Green said again, whatever you do of the night, sit with your foot up on the table, have a couple of drinks, but not too many. I think he looked over the dance floor about 2:30 in the morning, and you just see my crutches in the air like. I think you went, oof, that could be a long slog back. And I knew it was bad, but I didn't want to think about how bad it was, because I'd done what I wanted to achieve with teammates and the club that I'd fell in love with at the time as well. And it was an amazing time. But for this to happen, then I put it to the back of my mind. It was only then when you start trying to come back, and I'm watching the lads then prepare for the Prem season. They perhaps played Man United. And I mean, and the training ground at Chadderleaf was rubbish, to be fair. It had bar grills on the windows. It was dingy, and they're warming up for. They're going through shape to play Man United. They brought in Roy Carroll, who's playing, and I'm looking at it going, that should be me. I should be out there. Why did this happen, sort of thing? And it was a real tough time then. Real tough time. And it took me 6 or 7 months to really get my head around it.
So I think what that shows for a lot of people, and look, we know that it's not just highs in football, but even someone like you that everyone would look at and go, right, okay, fantastic career. You're already talking about there at 18, like 15, to get to 15 was a journey, and there was setbacks. 18, 19, there's more setbacks. And then even there, 29, 30, to get to the Prem, you rupture your cruise ship, they bring in Roy Carroll, and all of a sudden you're there and you're having to dig in again, and you still pulled out games. So I always say to people, sort of the good times are easy, the hard times define you.
Absolutely.
And it's
great
key.
sense.
So I think even if the show for the kids is sort of digging at those times, because like no other option, you're not going to give up.
Absolutely.
So I don't forget, because I put it on late and there wasn't as many questions, but one question was, and bring it to current times where we are with the Euros. You've obviously had a great career, and you mentioned England. Someone actually updated, I don't know if they're just a mad Walsall fan or one of your mates, but someone
Might
did
be
put, probably your dad actually, yeah. But someone said wrong era for Waka, brilliant shot stopper. The way they play off the feet now, should have played for England. So I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't, but that shows the regard some people set you in. Pickford, obviously he's having a good Euros at the minute, but obviously to current times for people who are relevant, how do you think Pickford's doing? And I think you said you played him at the very infancy of his career, didn't you?
I think there was a worry for me for him. I mean, just going back on that back pass rule made me. It was fantastic. I remember firstly it was the first year I went to Walsall, and we had Mark Gale, who was a fantastic goalkeeper, but he weren't so great with his feet. And I was doing Cruyffs and chopping people. And I think Gailey tried it once, and Kenny a bit slaughtered. He went, "You leave that to him." Yeah. That's when I thought, I know I've got a chance in him playing. Okay. So it actually made me. And we spoke about it being a massive part of goalkeeping, especially now, and the way teams play. So I think, especially the way he's come up through that era sort of thing. The FA asked me to look at him. He was on loan at Bradford, which is brilliant for him. He went on a load of loans at a young age. Okay. Which I think made him. He needed to have them loans.
He went similar in terms of
absolutely.
Doing it
he went to a below like a step 3 side, I think. Can't remember which one it was, up north. Then he went somewhere else a bit higher. Then he went to Bradford, and I played him at Bradford when he was probably about 18. So he'd already done 40, 50 games, and then he was playing at Bradford, which was perfect for him. But they asked me to watch him. Martin Thomas, who was the FA tutor at the time, said, Jimmy playing against Pickford, we really like him, just let us know what you think. And I said the same then as I did before this Euros. Really good goalie. He's got some great attributes. He was coming for crosses, he was punching them, he was making saves. His feet were sensational. He was drilling things even at that level. But he was so erratic. He was getting involved where he didn't need to. You know, and I put it down to age. And I said to Mike Tom, I said, look, brilliant. If you can calm him down and take that erraticness out of him, and you know, goalkeepers, I always like a calm goalie. You want him making saves when you need to, but you want to be really calm. I love seeing a calm goalie, and he was totally different from that. And it looked like he'd learnt at one point, and then it looked like from last season, the season, he'd gone back to being a bit more erratic. So there was a question mark for me going into it. And if maybe Pope weren't injured, would he get the nod? But he weren't as good with his feet, sort of thing. So it was a real tough one. But he played the last warm-up game, and he was still erratic. He played brilliant for 70 minutes, and there was a few things where he went really erratic. I'm like, I'm not sure I'd play him. But then since he got into the tournament, I think he's been everything that you'd want him to be, and everything you'd want a goalkeeper to be. He's been aggressive and coming for crosses when he needs to. He's not got involved when he didn't need to. He's dealt with things really well, and his feet are sensational. So he's had a great pathway because I think he was always in the academies, but they loaned him out and made him play men's football at a young age, you know, and that really toughened him up, and so he's got both sides to his game.
And in terms of like,
and he's still only young.
We're tipping on England at the minute, and I did see something. There's people like Grealish or Mount or others that did literally start their journey at 6, 7 in the academy, and they've gone through. But you look at Calvin Phillips, he didn't get in until 15. I think Maguire did play lower league level, I think, at Sheffield in different places when he was younger. So I think just to sort of come full circle to that, and like you said at the very, very start of this, everyone's journey is different. Everyone's journey is different. They'll have different pitfalls and successes, but it's been great to hear yours. A couple of questions we got asked, which I will bring up. You won't admit to this one, I think you said, but someone wanted to know the best goal scored against you. Do you remember?
No goal against you is a good goal.
Okay, that's a great one.
Although there's one I do remember, and it was actually West Ham against Walsall in the FA Cup. We lost 3-2. And Freddie Canute on that day was ridiculous. I don't know if you remember it.
Didn't Van Hooijdonk do you?
No, he tried. I got a touch on it. He tried from his own half, but I got a touch on it.
Okay.
Honest.
Okay.
All right, might not have got a touch for it in the bar.
Okay, yeah.
So that would have been unbelievable.
Do you remember that?
I remember it well.
I was in the stand shop. I was watching.
I was scrambling. Scrambling.
What a player he was.
Oh, he was a player. Canute, ball came across the Canute, across the 18-yard box. So I was moving with it, and before I even see it, it went. His court is so sweet, and it never moved from about that far off the turf.
Wow, he was a legend for Seville for about 10 years, so we'll let you off.
He was good. That's about one of the only ones I clapped.
Okay, fair play. What's the best one or memorable? Is it the penalty? What's your most memorable save? Someone said. Do you have a memorable save?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? There's certain saves that are probably better than ones you really remember, but the ones you really remember are the ones, you know, if you've sort of helped your team win something.
Yeah.
And the league. So it's fortunate enough I end up making some good saves. So I was delighted, but I think it's tough. It's tough. I mean, the Chelsea one does stand out to me because that was a defining moment in.
If anyone doesn't know, you saved Lampard's penalty.
It was a Stamford Bridge. Well,
no, but we didn't name it before.
Well,
let's
set the scene. The fog. There I was, Stamford Bridge. The fog was descending over the top of the Thames. So the shed end, 8,000 West Ham behind us, and that was incredible. I mean, that was the first glimpse I got of the West Ham fans, and it was a good game, and it'd been held up for about 8 minutes before that, and honestly, it was carnage. I'm thinking, even Frank's not this calm to this. And I'd love to say I made an unbelievably beautiful save, bottom corner, and tipped it round, but I actually probably went and turned it into a block save. I was about 6 yards out and ended up hitting my knees and going miles over there. But
in the modern game, you'd be pulled up on it, wouldn't you?
Oh, they wouldn't even need any lines. Forget them pathetic lines they put up. They wouldn't even need it. They're going, yeah, he's off. I was miles off. But that was quite a defining one at West Ham, and one that, you know, endeared me to the fans there straight away, which was great. But some, you know, I managed to make some at Walsall. I think Bobby Zamora always talks about one that made it Brighton. He headed it from about a yard away and ended up tipping it. And it helps. We got a good 1-0 win as well. So that was always nice. But there's some good ones when you look back.
And this to finish for this is
nice
actually,
to look back as it goes.
This is me from, and this is hopefully going to ask a lot of people when we do the podcast. But I asked you to pick your best five-a-side team you played with, but you've dragged it out to 6.
It was too tough.
It was too tough, yeah.
So
hopefully lots of people will play with it. It'll just showcase the type of people they've had the pleasure to play with. So go on then, your top 6-a-side team.
Right, so it's not, I'll probably change it from what I said earlier.
Well, I'll bring it back.
But I mean, think of Walsall, I played with Merce, Vinnie Sandmans.
I actually was going to mark
absolute unbelievable players. So that's the level we got to at Walsall. You know, some fantastic players over there. I played with Sheringham, who was
we were saying when you
always
always put in your team, like Derek Mountfield, come to the charity day the other day, won the UEFA Cup and the league for Everton, played for Villa.
Unbelievable.
Blah, blah, blah. But none of them made your team. I know you've been nice to them.
But the thing is, sort of as I went on, the standards got even better than Derek. Sorry, Derek. But I mean, you look at, you know, Mascherano at West Ham I played with.
God.
Big James Collins, who was a sensational player. Noble was coming through. Yossi Beni, Matt Etherington, some brilliant. I was fortunate enough, after West Ham went to Spurs. And I had 18 months there, and it was an incredible time. So I've come full circle, really. I went from, struggling to get a team, got released from Notts County, went to Walsall, bottom of Division 2, and worked through. And the pinnacle in the end, although I didn't quite reach to where I wanted to get to, was when I was at Spurs that last year. We ended up finishing the Champions League spot for the first time. I think I was in their history, so that was brilliant. Crouchy scored a header against Man City away. I was on the bench for it as well, so it was an amazing time. So some of the players I played with there were sensational, and that's when Bale was just coming through. So if I went through my team, and people might be surprised at the goalie, but the year I had with him, he was unbelievable. Harry took me in actually because he didn't fancy him. Gomez, this was Aurelio Gomez. He didn't fancy him, so he took me in because he thought he could chuck it at any moment, and he was injured. But the guy, I thought I was going to play to start with, but Gomez went away to Brazil and came back like an absolute beast and played with him the next week in the game I was supposed to play in the cup game. And Harry said, I've got to play him, Jim. Sorry. I was like, damn it. But fair dues. And so he played it and he never looked back. He was, that season, he was the best goalkeeping season I've ever seen from that moment. And he had some high-profile shockers the year before. So again, you go about mistakes and adversity defining you.
Yeah.
He could have gone under from that easy and gone back to Holland where he's a legend. He's actually fought through it and come back that season and had one of the best seasons I've ever seen from a goalkeeper. And he was a massive reason why they finished in the Champions League spots. So Gomez would be in goal.
Who's your defender?
The best player I ever played. The saddest thing was he could never really get to the levels he could have, because if he could have, he was so injury, like his body sort of let him down a little bit. And it was Ledley King. He was a man mountain, and he could play as well. He was quick. He was 6'2", solid, could play. He'd never beaten for pace, and he was outstanding. But he couldn't train and play, so he never trained. He'd come out for 5 minutes, walk for a bit of shape, go in, and he'd play on a Saturday and be immense. But then he'd have to rest the next Saturday, so he never really got going. But a fit Ledley King would have been like nothing I'd ever seen. So he'd get in on that if I could keep him fit. On my left would be Bale. I can't leave Bale out. He was unbelievable. When I went there, it was funny again. It's a great message. Because we talk about nothing going smoothly.
He's an August birthday.
Well, Bale, when he was at Spurs, and I know he wanted to go out on loan to Forest.
Right.
Now, there's big things that Harry was going to send him out on loan. Harry didn't really want him to go on loan, but they wanted him to play football. It didn't look like he was going to play it. Bale wanted to go and play football, and he was going on loan to Forest. He was trying to force it through, and I was speaking to him about different things. I said, "Don't be ridiculous. You're a proper player. As soon as you get your chance, you'll just go. And he did. So I'm taking a lot of credit for that as well. His hat-trick at Milan, I'm taking a lot of credit for that.
No.
He should have, shouldn't he, really? Jesus. I might not have been sat with you, or I might have been doing this in Monaco.
Play golf with him, man.
He was a good golfer as well.
Yeah.
Great lads, but he just went, and from that moment he got the game, he just went, and I've never seen anyone go on that trajectory. But it could have ended for him quite easily at Spurs. He could have gone off on loan, and who knows? He might have got to them levels, but he might not. It was at Spurs where he kicked on. Within 18 months, he was a world superstar going to Real Madrid.
I think your centre mid's going to be my favourite.
Well, he's the best player I've ever played with, I think. I actually never saw him give the ball away in training or a game. Like, he was ridiculous. If he stood in front of me and asked for the ball, even if he had 6 players around it, I'd give it him. Because he had a way of just moving his body, and the 6 players would go that way and he'd go that way. And then if they tried to read him, he'd double bluff them and just go back another way, and he was sensational. But Luka Modric, and you saw the goal against Scotland the other day, which was.
And even when you keep saying the message, I know people will put anything out, but they talk about not his adversity. He was clearly top draw, but there's always question marks about his height. And
absolutely, he
weight,
was at
because
Spurs,
he must have been about 9 stone dripping wet.
He worked really hard at Spurs, really hard. When I was in, he'd been in a bit of time. They knew he was a player, but he was quite slight.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, he was brilliant, but you couldn't get him off the ball because he was so good. But they was worried about it, and he worked so hard on his fitness and in the gym. And he got to a certain level, and he hated the gym, hated it. He was just all about on the ball, but he got to that level where he could deal with it, but he just couldn't get him off the ball.
And whether you question who should have won it, he's a Ballon d'Or winner. He won the Ballon d'Or.
It's not bad, is it?
At Real Madrid.
It's not bad, is it?
I actually always...
He was brilliant, and a terrific guy as well.
Was it?
All the lads that I've played with, they're really good lads. They're down-to-earth boys, work hard, and just solid lads.
Unless you've changed the person on the right, I really rated him. I really liked him as a player. Can you remember who you put on the right in midfield?
Did I go Van der Vaart?
Yeah.
Yeah, Vanders.
West Ham fans are not going to be happy
They're not
here,
going to be
are
happy at all, are they? Sorry, West Ham.
they?
Oh, Walsall, come on.
Yeah.
Merce troubles it.
Yeah, Merce, I think. Yeah.
Merce will trouble it.
I suppose
Merce
it's
was a player.
timing because Merce was obviously
was a
player
player.
manager and coming towards the... You can put Merce in.
I mean, you look at
Van der
Merce
Vaart
with
if you
that, the 4-1 against West Brom, and you look at that. I
Yeah.
mean, that's as good a
like. Are you
performance
kicking
as
Van
I've
der
seen.
Vaart out and putting Merce in?
Nah.
No, okay.
I've got to put Vanders in there. He was sensational. He just had sort of the X factor. You couldn't get the ball off him again, but he was quite infuriating to his teammates because he wouldn't pass. He wouldn't pass. He wanted to score. He didn't even, if he was near the 18-yard box, he would, and someone was on the goal line with a tap in, he's going to try and bend one in the top corner. So a lot of lads used to dig him out on it, but what a player. He was sensational. And then if you go up the top, there's a few.
I would also say the ones you've left out first, which was...
I mean, you've got to look at, Sheringham was one of the best players I've ever played with, and he was such a great guy as well. I sat next to him in the changing room, and I was a bit in awe, to be honest.
Give him your autobiography to read.
Well, I actually did.
No, you did.
I give everyone in the West Ham changing room. That's how I settled in nicely.
Oh, God.
Signed it to,
So talk about
to Teddy, all
character,
the best.
like you say, you're stepping up and you're like, I'm going to make my mark.
Well, that changing room was tough because
Yeah.
there were some big hitters in that changing room, and I could hear little rumours about, did I do that book? And anyone's seen the book, the front cover was horrendous, hilarious.
It wasn't that good.
It wasn't that good, was it? And I heard whistling. I thought, I'm quashing this. So I went to my attic, got about 20 copies, signed them to Bobby Zamora, all the best pal. Have a great season, Jim, Teddy. And I put them all in the lockers. And we went out to train. As I came back in, I just sat there. And first thing the lads do is get their phone out of the locker and sit there. So they go in the locker, they're like, you can see one at a time go, what the? And they don't get them down. I just sat there and I thought, 2 days of sticks work better than like them getting it themselves and giving me about 6 months of sticks. So I quashed that nice a bit. It settled me in nice as well, which was.
But Teddy and Bobby have
great.
not made the striker position, have they?
No. Defoe as well was sensational. Robbie Keane was a proper player.
Yeah.
But the one who, and he didn't come to the party for about a year. He started training, we thought, we've got a player here. But it never really happened for him in games. And then towards the end, he scored a free kick against Spurs. West Ham fans will know what I'm talking about. It's Tevez. And he scored a free kick against Spurs, and he ran into the crowd, and the crowd went mental, and it was electric. The atmosphere was electric. We ended up losing the game, and we thought it was down. And the emotion after the game, you had Nobes on the pitch crying, everyone's consoling each other. But the fans have sort of got back on board because they could see us having a right go at last. And I think Tevez got caught up and he actually went, that's what it means to him, right? And he came to the party. And with 10 games to go, he was unplayable. And we had a great team at the time. Rob Green was brilliant, big James Collins, Gabby Don, Lucas Neal, some great players, was quality players. But everyone went with Tevez when he went, and I think we won 8 out of the last 10 to stay up, and he scored some great goals. So Tevez is in there, definitely.
Well, one.
So it's not a bad team, is it?
No, mate. Look, I think, but you know what's really nice, and I think it's great. Obviously, we're finishing on like a world-renowned footballer, but even for parents, so you talk about adversity or different journeys. If people want to look after this on the journey Tevez had in Argentina and his adversity
Absolutely.
and coming through, it shows in what you're saying is everyone will have their different bits. You've just spoke there about Gomez, King, Modric, Bale, Tevez, world-renowned footballers, and everyone's had a different journey. But yeah, it is an amazing six-a-side team. This is the first podcast. Just want to say it's been a pleasure, as always. Hopefully,
I really enjoyed it.
the parents have got some value and other people around. And I hope, obviously, it's 25 years. You've just come out of football, but I hope you're staying in and around it because you're a character and I think you've got a real good value to football. So at this current time, we'll bump fists rather than shake hands. But Waka,
Top man.
it's been
pleasure.
a pleasure.
No, pleasure. And listen, like I said, you made some great points as well to some of the parents, and hopefully someone gets some value out of that. It'd be great. Well done, pal.
Top man, thank you.
Top man. Welcome.